What's up, everyone? Prison Miller here. Today, I'm going to be doing a new series called Best and Worst Songs on Each Album. So, here's how it works. I'm going to do a band's discography from its best songs and its worst songs. Now, these videos would be shorter, mainly because it's not just going to be, it's just more of the songs than it is on the album. So, yeah, and there's not going to be a lot of detail either. And plus, the videos will be shorter as well, just so y'all know. So, the first one I'm going to do is Iron Maiden. So, without further ado, let's get started with the series. Now, before I talk about their self-titled album, just so you know, I am excluding B-sides, just so y'all know. So, let's go ahead and start with the self-titled. Alright, so let's start with the worst song. The worst song to me would be Sanctuary. Now, I'm talking about the reissue version of this album, not the original version. Sanctuary is only available on the reissue version. That would have to be my least favorite song from this album. It's not because it's a bad song, it's not bad at all. It's just, it doesn't really add up to me as much as their usual songs, and that's just pretty much all I have to say for this one. Now, the best song from there in that album to me would be Phantom of the Opera. Sounds more like a future Iron Maiden material. Just a very epic song to me. Sounds like a beginning tradition for Iron Maiden, and I just love the songwriting and the guitar work from Dennis Stratton, which is the only album with him on it. So yeah, that is Phantom of the Opera, my favorite song from this album. Okay, so on Killers, my least favorite song from Killers would have to be Purgatory. Why? It just has lack of melodies from it, and I just don't really care for that song very much. Not bad at all, it just doesn't really stick out to me. My favorite song from the album would probably be Murders in the Rue Morgue. I just fucking love that song. I just love the riffs and Paul Di'Anno's singing on there. Such an amazing song. Alright, my least favorite song from Number of the Beast, I guess Gangland. Why? It's just the most simple track from this album. I don't mean like simplistic, slow, simplistic. It's just that it just doesn't really reach out as much as the other songs from that album. Don't get me wrong, I do think it's a great track, but just not my favorite. Still a great song though. Now, my number one favorite may piss you off a little, but it's gonna be The Prisoner. I just fucking love the songwriting to it. The chorus is catchy and the solos. I know many of y'all would think Hallowed Be Thy Name will be as my favorite. Don't get me wrong, I love that song, but I prefer The Prisoner. Alright, so Peace of Mind. My least favorite song from there would be Quest for Fire. That song is just very cheesy. I don't like the chorus. Not one of the worst songs that I've heard, but definitely the worst song from that album. I just find the chorus very cheesy. The song was never played live, and many people hate it. Now this is going to be my top 10 worst Iron Maiden songs ever, which I will explain later in the video. But on to my favorite song. My favorite song from there would be Flight of Icarus. That song is just epic to me, man. I find the chorus amazing. I find the verses amazing. The middle section is perfect. Everything about that song. One of the greatest Maiden songs of all time. What's there to say, man? Guys, this is a very hard one to pick a least favorite because every song on there is just perfect. But the weakest song from Here to Me, I can't just skip to my favorite. I have to pick the least favorite. So I would have to say Flash of the Blade to be my least favorite. Mainly because it's the shortest song. I don't know. I know it's not really a good reason because that song is just too amazing and it's a masterpiece. And there is not one weak song from this album, but I'm just gonna say Flash of the Blade. Sorry guys, I just can't pick the least favorite. But my number one favorite from this album, and it should be everyone's favorite too, and it's definitely the last track, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This is my favorite Maiden song of all time, just so y'all know, and it's just a perfect masterpiece song. It's just perfect. What's there to say about that song? Okay guys, this is the hardest decision on this one because this is my number one favorite Iron Maiden album. And this is the hardest one. I guess I'm just gonna say my least favorite, I guess Wasted Years. I don't know. It's hard. Mainly because it has lack of synthesizer and doesn't reach to the album, but it's still a perfect song though. Shit. My number one favorite song. This is tough, but I'm just gonna say Heaven Can Wait. Why? The middle section. Pretty much every song is my number one favorite, to be honest, but I'm just gonna have to say Heaven Can Wait. This is tough. Alright. Alright. My least favorite may piss a few people off, but it's gonna have to be, my least favorite is gonna have to be Can I Play With Madness? Why? It's just too short, and I feel like they could make this song a lot longer, like up to like 6 minutes instead of 3 minutes. I mean, I love this song, but it's just too short for me. Now, my favorite, actually, I have two number one favorites. It's Infinite Dreams and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Both songs are just perfect to me. Infinite Dreams is just the songwriting, the solos, everything. And the title track, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. nearly 10-minute song is just perfect. And Mark a Punk, if you're watching this video, it's not annoying. If you mean by annoying, you mean annoyingly masterpiece. It's not annoying, it's epic as fuck. I mean, how is the middle section annoying? It just has this long build up and then it goes right to its solos and the song's over. Just a perfect epic for this song. One of my favorite Maiden songs of all time, for sure. Alright, now things are getting a little easier now. No Prayer for the Dying. My least favorite is very easy. It's Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. If you watch my top 10 worst Iron Maiden songs, you'll see what I mean. I don't need to explain again. Now, my favorite song from this album would have to be the opening track, Tail Gunner. I just love the riffs and Bruce's Rhapsody vocals, even though I'm not really a fan of his Rhapsody vocals throughout this album, but I do think that vocals fits with that song. So this has to be my favorite song from this album, Tail Gunner. Okay, Fear of the Dark. That one's easy, and my least favorite is definitely Weekend Warrior. I know some of you people may put The Apparition on there too. I think that song sucked too, but I think that song is a bit better than Weekend Warrior. It's because The Apparition has a really great middle section. Weekend Warrior doesn't. It's just a very cheesy song and it sounds very messy. And I just don't like the way it sounds. So this is my least favorite song from this album. Now, actually, just like with Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, I have two number one favorites from this album. And it's Afraid to Shoot Strangers and Fear of the Dark. Both songs are just masterpieces and I just fucking love it. For sure. Alright, now on to the Blaze Bayley era. X Factor. My least favorite would probably be 2 AM. Why? It's just too simplistic and kind of boring. Not a bad song, just very mediocre. But I've heard way worse Iron Maiden songs than this. But my favorite song from this album would be the opener track, Sign of the Cross. Just an epic way to start with the Darkness album. The 11-minute track is just so epic to me. Alright, now, Virtual 11. This is easy. The worst song is so easy, and that is Angel and the Gambler. The worst Iron Maiden song ever. Just fuck that song, seriously. But let's just move on to my number one favorite song. And that is the best song from this album would be The Klansman. I just love that song. For some of you who don't like The Klansman, listen to the live version with Bruce Dickinson. It has Bruce Dickinson singing instead of Blaze Bayley. That and Future Real. These are the only two songs from that album with Bruce Dickinson singing on there. The rest is just on Blaze Bayley. I wish Bruce Dickinson would sing Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger, by the way. But yeah, my favorite song from this album is The Klansman. Alright, Brave New World, The Return of Bruce and Adrian. Now, my least favorite song, I think I've mentioned this before, and that would have to be The Mercenary. Why? It's mainly because the songwriting is just way too simple. Doesn't mean it's bad or anything. I still love that song, don't get me wrong, but probably the most simple song from this album. And it doesn't really, change anything to it. Still an amazing song, but it has to be the weakest song from this album, in my personal opinion. Now, just like with Seventh Son and Fear of the Dark, I have two number one favorites from this album. And that is Ghost of a Navigator and Dream of Mirrors. Now, I explained many times before on Ghost of the Navigator with its middle section, it's how epic it was. But Dream of Mirrors, I think that's the longest song from this album. I believe it was. Yes, it is. That album is just, it starts off very slow, but I promise you it gets much better with the middle section. It just pretty much changed the tempo around, and that's what I love about this song. Alright, now Dance of Death. Yes, I'm using the alternative cover this time because I can't stand of the Teletubby looking abortion album cover. So I'm using the better cover instead. But anyways, on to the worst song from this album. Now, just so you all know, Gates of Tomorrow grew on me a lot more than it has, and I'm starting to like this song and started to take it off of my top 10 worst Iron Maiden songs. But it's still gonna have to be my least favorite song from that album, mainly because it's a little bit draggy at times, but it doesn't really bother me, and it doesn't really bother me, but it's probably the most simple track from this album, aside from the closing track, which is I'm not counting the closing track, which is the ballad song. But aside from the Journeyman, Gates of Tomorrow would be the most simplistic track from this album. So yeah. Now, my favorite one is definitely not a surprise, and that is Dance of Death, the title track. That is probably my favorite song from this album. One of my favorite Iron Maiden songs of all time. And yes, Dance of Death is now in my top 10 favorite Maiden albums, probably around number 8 or 7, I don't know yet. But yeah, just keep y'all in mind. Alright, for A Matter of Life and Death, this one is kind of tricky, even though it's not one of my favorite Maiden albums. Plus, that album did grow on me a lot more than it has a long time ago. But I'm gonna have to say my least favorite would probably be The Longest Day, mainly because it's very slow, and the middle section doesn't really, add up as much. Don't get me wrong, I do love that song, but the middle section, there's not a lot to it. So I'm going to have to choose The Longest Day as my least favorite. Now, my favorite song from that one would probably gonna have to be the reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. I thought this was an amazing song. It kind of reminds me of Ancient of the Mariner. The Mariner, kind of mainly the riffs of it, and it's just a very epic song to me. It kind of reminds me of Power Slave a bit. So yeah, that would be my favorite song from this album. Alright, now Final Frontier, which is my least favorite Maiden album. The worst song from this album would easily be Isle of Avalon. Why? First of all, there's no reason for this song to be 9 minutes. It could have been like 5 or 6 minutes instead. As I explained before on my top 10 worst Iron Maiden songs, it just has, first of all, the intro is just way too long. It lasted for like 2.5 minutes. And then the first hook isn't all that good, and it's just mainly Bruce's raspy vocals, just like the usual songs from the Final Frontier. And the middle section is very boring, and then it goes back to the intro. So this song is just, you just heard this song twice already. So after the middle section, the song is just pretty much over. It just comes back to the intro and just starts back to the chorus. That's just pretty much it. So yeah, you prepare to be very disappointed with that song. So yeah, Isle of Avalon is probably the worst song from this album. Now, my favorite song from this album, it's not El Dorado. Hell no. I don't like that song either. Now, my favorite song from Final Frontier is The Talisman. Why? Because Bruce's vocals is nowhere near as raspy as the other songs from this album, and it's actually very epic. I thought, whenever I first heard it, I thought it was going to be like Isle of Avalon. I think it was perfect at 9 minutes. The songwriting is perfect. Just everything about it is just amazing. The Talisman is easily the best song from this album, in my opinion. Alright, now, the recent album, Book of Souls. My least favorite song from that album would probably have to be The Man of Sorrows. Why? I feel like this song is just way too random for me. Mainly, I mean, I love the intro for this album, and but until then, the rest kind of sounds too random, and it doesn't really fit very well. But I do love the melodies and the solos, though. Don't get me wrong, though. But I just find that song to be very random. Now, my favorite song from this album would have to be The Book of Souls, the 10-minute track. Nope, sorry, it's not Empire of the Clouds. Epic song, but not my favorite. Book of Souls is my favorite song from this album. I just love how epic it is. It's the ending for the first half of the first act of this album. I just thought the melodies and Bruce's vocals, one of his best vocals since his return, in my personal opinion, and I just love how the songwriting turns out from Steve and Janik. So yeah, Book of Souls would have to be my favorite from this album. Alright guys, I know the length of this video is usual as my album rankings, mainly because this band has 16 albums. If I had an album that's less than 10, then the video would be a lot shorter. But I'm trying not to make it as I'm trying not to make the video long, but it's what it is. Anyway, if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and click the bell on the notifications. Until then, I'll see y'all next time, and peace out.